On New Year's Eve, my daughter was gravely ill. Lying on her deathbed, she said her last wish was to see her father one more time. But I couldn't bring myself to tell her that he was out with another woman's child, setting off fireworks and celebrating the new year. All I had were calls that went unanswered, one after another, until my daughter passed away in sorrow. In absolute despair, I threw myself from the rooftop. When life gave me a second chance, I looked at the man before me, his eyes full of guilt and helplessness, yet in my heart, I felt nothing. "Elena, just this once. Alice is sick. She really needs me." I cradled my daughter in my arms and cut him off coldly. Get out. Chapter 1. I never imagined I would live again. The image of my daughter Sophia dying in my arms was still fresh, as if it had happened only moments ago. In my previous life, my death had been miserable and humiliating. Sophia's final wish had been to see her father, whom she hadn't seen for more than a month. But I couldn't tell her that Ethan wasn't even answering my calls. No matter how many messages I sent or how desperately I begged, it was like throwing stones into a bottomless abyss. No response, no hope. Meanwhile, on Amelia's social media, I saw Ethan setting off fireworks to welcome the new year with his daughter Alice. "This year we have company to welcome the year. The little one is happy." Despair, rage, and helplessness consumed me. I broke down completely, and though Sophia was just a child, she understood everything. "Mom, Dad isn't coming to see me, is he?" I held her tightly, whispering apologies over and over. I felt her small body grow cold, stiffening until every trace of life slipped away. Outside, fireworks painted the night sky with dazzling colors while my world collapsed forever. I lost the only reason I had left to keep living. After burying Sophia in silence, I climbed to the hospital rooftop. Without hesitation, broken inside, I leapt into the void. As my soul floated above my shattered body, I saw someone I never expected: Ethan. He rushed to me, sobbing desperately, begging the doctors to save me. But my head was destroyed. There was no saving me. My soul screamed with fury, longing to drive him away from my corpse, to slap him again and again, but I was powerless. And yet, against all logic, I was reborn. No one could imagine the overwhelming emotion I felt when I realized it, nor how hard it was to hold back my tears when I saw Sophia alive before me again. I had a second chance. This time, I would change Sophia's fate and mine. As for Ethan, let him rot in hell. Right now, Ethan stood before me, his face full of apologies as he stroked Sophia's hair. "Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Daddy has something very important to do. I'll be back soon, okay?" "Elena, just this once. Alice is sick. She really needs me." Sophia looked sad, but she never tried to stop her father from any decision he made. She was so understanding, it broke my heart. I looked at Ethan's face, a face that disgusted me and couldn't hold back. With one hand, I covered Sophia's eyes, and with the other, I slapped him hard. A sharp crack split the air. "So, visiting the daughter of your first love, a child she had with another man, is more important than staying with your own sick daughter? Or is it more urgent to run off in the middle of the night to fix the pipes for your ex while she's dressed provocatively?" Ethan froze, stunned. He touched his cheek and stared at me in disbelief. Then his expression turned to fury. He pointed at me, gritting his teeth. "Elena, your mind is filthy. Amelia is a single mother with no family here. Is it wrong for me to help her? You have no right to speak that way." Holding Sophia tightly in my arms, I walked to the door. Ethan kept insisting, trying to justify his twisted logic. I simply opened the door, turned, and said, "Get out." Ethan fell silent instantly. My absolute indifference left him speechless. After a long, tense moment, he finally turned and left. Before, every time he walked out the door, I would tear myself apart inside, punishing myself over and over until I fell into depression, and without realizing it, I neglected Sophia too. But now that I had another chance, I would never let it happen again. That man deserved nothing more than to be a photograph hanging on the wall. Chapter 2. After Ethan left, I carried Sophia out as well. With her arms around my neck, she asked innocently, "Mom, where are we going?" Thankfully, I had been reborn early enough. Her emotional wounds were deep, but still healable. I stroked her soft hair and smiled. "Mommy's going to take you somewhere fun." From now on, Sophia will be happy every single day, and we'll never let toxic people hurt us again, okay? Sophia nodded cheerfully. I carried her, hailed a taxi, and went straight to the best psychological center in the city. Hello, could you please arrange the best therapist you have available? The receptionist acted quickly, and I was lucky. Bruno, the top therapist at the center, just happened to have a free slot today. From the very first moment Sophia saw him, she liked him. She whispered in my ear, "Mom, I like this man. His eyes, they know how to smile." Bruno came closer with a warm smile. "Hello, little one. Do you want to come play some games with me?" Normally, Sophia was very shy around strangers, but Bruno's kind eyes seemed magical. She wasn't afraid of him at all. Watching Sophia calmly and obediently go through her psychological tests with Bruno, the crushing weight that had been on my heart ever since my rebirth finally began to lift. While I waited, I received a message from Amelia. It was a photo, Ethan cradling Alice in his arms, rocking her to sleep, while Amelia leaned against his shoulder. Such a warm, perfect scene. Anyone who saw it would think they were a happy family. Amelia, Ethan is surprisingly good at putting Alice to sleep. I'm sure he must be an exemplary father at home too, right? Always so patient with your daughter, isn't he? Exemplary father? I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Before Amelia reappeared in Ethan's life after her divorce, good father and Ethan could never be mentioned in the same sentence. Sophia was conceived because of a failure in birth control. When we found out about the pregnancy, he told me not once but many times that he didn't like children. That even if she was born, he wouldn't know how to be a good father. His words, no matter how he twisted them, meant only one thing: wanted me to have an abortion. But that child was part of me, my own flesh and blood. I could never abandon her. I insisted on having Sophia. Ethan got angry and made my life a living hell for months until he finally gave in. And just as he had warned, when Sophia was born, he never took on a single responsibility as a father. Not during postpartum, not in the care of the baby. He avoided it all, hiding behind the excuse of work. I did everything on my own. Sophia grew up without a drop of fatherly love. Only when she stopped crying, when she stopped seeking affection, did Ethan begin to treat her a little better. I used to console myself thinking, Ethan just doesn't like children. I can't force him. But later I realized the truth. It wasn't that he didn't like children. He didn't like the daughter he had with me. The night Amelia announced her divorce, he never came home. Later I saw a video on Amelia's social media. Ethan, clumsy but smiling, trying to calm a newborn in his arms. Ethan says he doesn't know how to take care of babies, but he wants to learn. Ha ha ha. So excited, that same man who used to scowl in annoyance at the sound of Sophia's cries now smiled tenderly while listening to another little girl cry. A little girl who wasn't even his. She was Amelia's daughter with her ex-husband. But he adored her. To his very bones. He gave her all his love. And to my Sophia, he gave nothing. I didn't respond to Amelia's blatant provocation. It wasn't really a conversation. It was always one-sided attacks. And I never replied. Before, it was because of the pain. Now, it's because I simply don't care anymore. I'm laying a long-term trap. I smiled faintly and pulled a black card from my pocket. At the bottom corner, embossed in silver, was a single name, Ethan. I snapped a photo of it and sent it to Amelia. She went silent. She didn't send another word. But I knew this was only the calm before the storm. Amelia staying quiet? Not in a million years. Chapter 3. From the day Ethan walked out that door, he never came back. I knew perfectly well what he intended to wait for me to lower my head and give in. But the Elena who would have yielded was the one who loved him. That Elena no longer exists. Now, I couldn't care less where he was. All my energy was focused on Sophia's therapy. In fact, I wished he would never return so I wouldn't have to see him again. Maybe it was because I had already died once. Maybe it was because I no longer felt even a spark of love for him. But the depression that had consumed me for years in my past life had disappeared, as if by magic. In the end, men only serve one purposito: make women sick. Nothing more. Even though Ethan never came back, I could guess with my eyes closed where he was. Amelia's social media profile was practically a live broadcast of Ethan playing the role of the perfect father. Every day brought new updates, family scenes so sweet that anyone would think they were the ideal family. Oblivious friends asked if they had gotten back together or even if Alice was Ethan's biological daughter. Ethan, the elegant hypocrite he was, replied in the comments, "Alice is very little and she lost her dad. I just want her to have a complete childhood. Don't misunderstand."
Such noble words.
Such a perfect performance.
Such a huge lie.
I hit like on every post without ever leaving a comment, not even an emoji. Meanwhile, my notifications kept showing that Ethan was visiting my profile. I ignored him completely, as if he didn't exist. And the more I ignored him, the more detailed his updates about his new life as a super dad became. While I rocked Sophia to sleep, he was rocking Alice. While I attended parent-teacher meetings at Sophia's school, he was attending as Alice's dad. While I accompanied Sophia to her therapy sessions, he was losing his mind over the tiniest scratch on Alice's finger. One day a curious neighbor asked me, "And Sophia's father? Where is he? We haven't seen him in a long time." I gave a faint smile and replied with absolute coldness, "Dead." The neighbor sighed and didn't ask anything more. During that time, after many days of silence, Amelia sent me a message. "Amelia, aren't you curious about where Ethan has been all this time without coming home? Amelia, it's incredible how good he is at taking care of Alice. She's so happy with him." A cheap attempt to provoke me. I answered instantly, "Elena, I'm not curious. I hope he dies out there." She didn't know how blissful my life was without having to see that repulsive face every day. On the other side of the screen, all I saw was typing over and over again. After a long while, she finally sent, "Amelia, now you pretend to be tough. Weren't you the one who used to beg Ethan to come home for your daughter's sake? When I have him completely at my feet, you'd better behave and sign the divorce papers without tears." I didn't reply with words. I simply sent her the same photo of the black card, the one with Ethan's name engraved in golden letters. At last, peace again. But Amelia moved quickly. Not long after that day, she sent me a photo. It was a screenshot of several bank transfers with large sums. I didn't respond. A few days later, she sent another image, a high-end designer handbag with a diamond buckle, easily worth hundreds of thousands. Then another, the title deed to a house. And finally, a luxury black credit card. "Amelia, this card I have has a much higher limit and far more privileges than yours." Everything she flaunted, Ethan also posted on his social media. Posts set to only visible to Elena. If it had been the old me, I probably would have already been crying in despair. But what a pity. I'm not that woman anymore. Elena, thank you. Amelia didn't understand anything. "Amelia, have you gone crazy? Why are you thanking me?" Obviously, I was thanking her for handing me a pile of solid evidence. Now, making their lives miserable was one of my greatest pleasures. Bruno, knowing a bit about my situation, asked if I needed a lawyer. He recommended a friend of his, one of the city's best family law specialists. I thanked him, transferred the consultation fee, and accepted his help. Then I formally sued Amelia, demanding the return of marital assets. As soon as Amelia received the notice, she hysterically called Ethan at work, forcing him to cancel a board meeting to go deal with her disaster. Furious, Ethan wanted to confront me. But as always, he didn't dare call me directly. Instead, he sent his secretary to order me to come. "Secretary, the boss wants you to come to the office. He has matters to discuss with you." Ethan's secretaries had always been experts at playing along. Who mattered to Ethan was obvious to everyone except Ethan himself, who never admitted it out of pride. Those secretaries were the perfect example. In my previous life, when I begged to speak to Ethan, nearly all my calls were rejected by them. This time, so focused on ruining Ethan, I had almost forgotten about those parasites. Before giving birth to Sophia, I had been a key figure in the company. I remembered perfectly every dirty secret those secretaries had helped him hide for 5 years. I exposed them one by one, mercilessly. And then I blocked them all. Headlines exploded. The company's stock plummeted. Ethan lost 4 of his most trusted secretaries in one single blow. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and sent me a message on WeChat. "Ethan, was it you who sued Amelia? And also the one who exposed my secretaries?" Was that really necessary, Elena? I admit it was a mistake not coming home for 2 months. But you were the one who started it all by hitting me. Do you really think I'm living with Amelia? I never crossed that line. I just wanted Alice to have a happy childhood. Look at you now, you seem like a petty, jealous woman, a bitter wife who only knows how to make a scene. He still wanted to keep writing, but after replying with just one word, okay, I blocked him too. Chapter 4. After clearing out all the garbage from my contacts, my WeChat was finally quiet and clean. Thanks to Bruno's therapy, Sophia was becoming brighter and happier each day. She no longer remembered the man who once made her cry. Yes, she had completely forgotten that she even had a father. Ethan had been erased from her heart and her memory. One day, while I was casually showing her some new photos on my phone, by accident I swiped to an image where Ethan appeared. Panic surged through me and I quickly shut off the phone, terrified that seeing him would bring back the pain and ruin all our progress. But Bruno, always calm, simply smiled. Then I noticed Sophia looking at me in confusion, pointing at the black screen. Mom, who is that man? Why did you have his picture on your phone? I froze. I looked at Bruno for an explanation. He answered gently, Sophia's condition stems largely from emotional trauma. Thanks to therapy, her body has triggered a self-protection mechanism, instinctively rejecting any memory related to the people who hurt her. That's why she doesn't recognize him at all now. Maybe she'll never remember. And without that emotional wound, her physical health will only get better and better. An immense joy filled me. At last I had saved my daughter. And meanwhile, Ethan didn't even know that his own child no longer remembered he existed. He was too busy drowning in problems. On one side, his company in crisis, on the other, his beloved ex-girlfriend whining and crying every other day. He couldn't let go of either. Amelia, useless as always, only knew how to cry and panic. Ethan had to clean up all her messes. And yet she still found time to pick fights with me. Amelia, Elena, how dare you betray me? I replied with a laughing emoji. Elena, excuse me? What are you talking about? Did I hold a knife to your throat when you sent me those transfer records? Did I threaten to kill you if you didn't show me your black card? Would you have died if you didn't flaunt it? Elena, some people just love humiliating themselves. After that satisfying blow, Amelia didn't reply again. It had already been 2 months since Ethan last set foot in our home. And honestly, I was blissfully happy. If only he had been gone forever. But unfortunately, Ethan wasn't dead, just blinded by his obsession with his first love. Frustrated at not being able to insult me directly, thanks to being blocked, he did something ridiculous. He sent me dozens of messages. Elena, was it really necessary to make this mess? I've told you 1,000 times, Amelia and I are only friends. I never crossed any line. Everything I gave her was because she's recently divorced, raising her daughter alone. She's emotionally unstable. I just wanted to cheer her up a little. Can't you have some compassion? Alice is an unfortunate child. She never knew a father's love. I'm only filling in temporarily, nothing more. Withdraw the lawsuit. Do you hear me? Reply when you read this. Still not answering? Elena, you're losing control. I didn't reply to any of his messages. As the trial date drew near, Ethan began to lose his composure. He lowered himself enough to call me on the phone. I hung up before the ring even completed. I turned to Sophia, who was clinging to Bruno's neck, and stretched my arms to take her. Sophia, darling, today we're going to the hospital for your checkup. Come with mommy, okay? Uncle Bruno has to work. But Sophia nestled even closer against Bruno's cheek and refused to let go. Lately, she was closer to Bruno than to me. She cuddled with him more than with her own mother. And yes, even I, her mom, was starting to feel jealous. Bruno shook his head and chuckled. No problem. She just charges more. I sighed and nodded in resignation. On the way, my phone rang at least a dozen times. And each time I hung up without hesitation. Chapter 5. Bruno was sitting outside the doctor's office with Sophia in his arms. I was showing her a video from her birthday, the one where they smeared cake all over her face. That day, Sophia laughed like never before. Since she was born, I had never seen her smile that brightly. Cuddled in Bruno's arms, Sophia burst into giggles. She said that on Uncle Bruno's birthday, she wanted to do the same to him. And just at that moment, Ethan appeared. He saw that warm, Happy seen and lunged at me furiously, gripping my wrist tightly. We were in a hospital.
There were many people around.
Ethan clenched his teeth, trying to contain his rage. Elena, with what right do you reproach me about Amelia? I haven't been home in 2 months, and you didn't even ask why. Now I understand you don't care, because you already have someone else. At least I'm really taking care of Alice. And you? What are you doing now? Laughing with another man as if I were dead? Elena, talk. Have you run out of words or what? Ethan demanded, trembling with anger. I stayed silent for a few seconds. Then I let out a soft laugh. An answer? Of course. I raised my free hand and slapped him with all my strength. Ethan, you'd be better off dead. The slap cracked loudly in the air, absolute satisfaction. It was the second time I had slapped Ethan since my rebirth, and the feeling was wonderful. Never before had I treated Ethan this way. All those years in my previous life, I always walked behind him, looking at him with eyes full of love, never daring to ask for anything in return. Now, just 2 slaps were enough to make Ethan start questioning his entire existence. He stared at me for a long, long time, eyes full of disbelief. And suddenly, he let out a bitter, sarcastic laugh. When I heard you were in the hospital, I felt guilty. I blamed myself for being away from home so long, for leaving you to handle everything alone. I didn't know which of you was sick, but in any case I felt bad. I canceled several meetings to rush here with the intention of apologizing. I never imagined I'd find this. Elena, how can you be so shameless? Before I could respond, Bruno lifted Sophia in his arms and leaned slightly toward me. Excuse me, Miss Elena. I know this is outside the scope of my work, but honestly, he flexed his wrist and without hesitation landed a punch straight on Ethan. A solid hit so strong it sent him to the ground, dazed, unable to get up. I watched blood start to drip from his nose and the corner of his lips. He lay there for a moment, confused, then gasped sharply from the pain. If I hadn't been holding Sophia, I would have applauded. But Ethan reacted quickly. He staggered up, furious, fist raised, ready to strike back. However, before he could approach, the doctor came out of the office holding Sophia's results. Who is the guardian of little Sophia? Please come inside. We need to discuss her condition. Ethan lowered his fist, and for a moment guilt flickered across his face. He opened his mouth, ready to declare that he was Sophia's father, but he never got the chance. The doctor looked at Bruno and me and said, Mom and Dad, come in together. Ethan was ignored completely. Grinding his teeth with a dark expression, he followed us into the office. Standing beside me, he had to take several deep breaths before daring to speak. Sophia is sick, and you didn't think to tell me? Because you were so angry with me for taking care of Alice, you dared to play with your daughter's health? Elena, you really are a huge disappointment. The doctor clicked his tongue in irritation. Silence. Then he addressed us. Sophia's condition is congenital. It is extremely rare. Honestly, when I saw the results, even I could hardly believe it. For such a young child to already show symptoms of somatization if left untreated, the illness would only worsen and in the end, there would likely have been no hope of survival. Hearing that diagnosis again, even in this second life, pierced my heart with sharp pain. It was exactly what had happened in my previous life. Sophia's somatization worsened rapidly. Her condition deteriorated every day. She couldn't sleep at night, couldn't eat, not even drink water. She survived only thanks to nutrient IVs that kept her basic vital signs stable. She was so small, and yet, after all that suffering, she still left me. The thought of it made tears spill uncontrollably down my cheeks. But the good news, the doctor continued gently, is that now all of Sophia's vital indicators are improving, and the symptoms of somatization are slowly disappearing. This is a very encouraging sign. Sophia lifted her tiny hand to wipe my tears. Mommy, don't cry. I'm getting better every day. I want to stay with you forever. Beside me, Ethan, who had started out hostile and tense, grew quieter and quieter as he listened. When we thanked the doctor and left the office, he followed behind me, stubborn yet silent. Then he stretched out his hand, trying to touch Sophia's hand as I held her in my arms. His gaze was filled with guilt and desperation. Sweetheart, forgive me. From today on, Daddy will be with you every day, okay? But suddenly Sophia burst into tears. Mommy, I don't know this ugly man. I don't like him. He was mean to you, Mommy. I don't like him. I don't want him to touch my hand. Chapter 6. When Sophia said she didn't know him, Ethan froze, stunned for several minutes. How can she not recognize me? In desperation, he pulled out his phone, searching his photo gallery for a picture of himself with Sophia. But there was nothing. Not a single one. His gallery was filled with pictures of a little girl named Alice. There wasn't a single corner left for his own daughter. All he could do was stand there helplessly, watching Sophia cry and scream, repeating over and over, "Sweetheart, I'm Daddy. I'm your daddy." Sophia pulled further away from him, crying harder. I feared such anguish would worsen her condition. Thankfully, Bruno intervened in time, calming her patiently. Ethan watched from the corner, pain and bitterness deepening with every second. Then he turned a cold gaze on me. Sophia's illness doesn't justify her infidelity. Didn't she have a father? And now, after all this time, she doesn't even recognize me? Ethan always knew how to blame everything except himself. The heavens, fate, bad luck, anything but his own negligence. I couldn't hold back. I slapped him again, right across his already bruised face. Then I pulled out Bruno's therapist certificate and shoved it in his face. Bruno, calm as ever, commented, "It would be best if Miss Elena kept my certificate away from that man. I have serious issues with filth, and other people's stupidity can trigger a crisis." I quickly apologized and pulled the document back. Ethan's expression that day was priceless: humiliated, beaten, insulted, unable to defend himself. I gave him no chance to react. Do you see it clearly now? Accusing Bruno of being my lover? Let me tell you something. Ethan, if I hadn't been lucky enough to meet Bruno, do you really think you'd even get to see your daughter today? Or even see me alive to tell you this? Sophia has been sick for 5 years. I never hid it. Her medical records are everywhere in the house. But you never cared. You were too busy. Too important. Do you even remember you had a daughter? I shoved my phone in front of him, showing Amelia's posts from her social media. Where were you when Sophia missed you so much it made her sick? When she cried, asking why her daddy never cared about her. You were busy. Busy being the father of another child. Ethan shook his head. No, it wasn't like that. I pointed at a photo one where Ethan was desperately soothing Alice over a simple scratch on her finger. While you were panicking over Alice's tiny scratch, your real daughter was crying herself into worsening somatization, her fever climbing over 40 degrees. The doctor said if the fever hadn't come down, there was a high chance she wouldn't survive. My throat closed up, but I forced myself to go on. For 3 days I didn't change clothes or close my eyes, fighting against death to bring her back. I went to every temple on my knees, begging the gods, if a life had to be taken, take mine, but let my daughter live. You know nothing. You have no idea, Ethan. Anyone can say pretty words. Anyone can pretend to be noble. But you never measured up. Oh, of course you can abandon your wife and daughter to run after another woman, but I can't even speak to a doctor just because he happens to be a man. By the time I finished speaking, I was already crying. Ethan staggered back several steps. Like a frightened child, he collapsed against the wall, covering his face with both hands. He had nothing more to say. He only muttered again and again, as if his soul had shattered. I'm sorry. Suddenly his phone rang. It had an auto-answer function for contacts marked as special. After a few seconds, the call picked up on its own. Hello, Ethan? Are you there? It's nothing urgent. Sorry to bother you, but Alice really misses you. She wants you to come back and read her a bedtime story. The voice was soft, with just the right mix of sweetness and pleading. Then came Alice's little voice. Daddy, why haven't you come back yet? Alice misses you. Alice fell today. It hurt a lot. She wants Daddy to come for her. Ethan hung up immediately, desperate, not knowing what to do or say. I let out a sarcastic laugh. Go. Your little girl is waiting for you to read her a story before bed. Ethan shook his head. No, she isn't my daughter. My daughter is Sophia. But his voice lacked strength, and his eyes betrayed him. Already, he was worrying about Alice again, torn over whether to go check on that poor little girl who had fallen. Elena, forgive me. I know Sophia is better now, but Alice is very fragile. A fall like that could cause complications. Amelia is alone. She can't handle everything you don't understand. I swear I've never done anything inappropriate with Amelia. It's just that I can't abandon Alice. They're alone. Before, I never understood why people said a dog never stops eating shit. Now I understood perfectly. Bruno, beside me, let out a laugh. I lifted Sophia into my arms and walked away. And what good is saying I'm sorry? I already told you, Ethan, it would be better if you died somewhere. Never seeing you again is the best forgiveness you could give me. Chapter 7. I didn't withdraw the lawsuit, but curiously, after that day, Ethan also stopped helping Amelia. I don't know why he suddenly abandoned his poor single mother with her little girl's speech. But honestly, I didn't care. Amelia now officially wore the label of the mistress, and everything Ethan had given her was ordered to be returned. Part of the money she had already spent, but that wasn't my problem. Sophia's illness no longer required psychological therapy, so I settled Bruno's fees and even gave him double as a token of gratitude. Now I only wanted to be fully present for Sophia. Amelia no longer mattered to me. What had surprised me was that Ethan didn't seem to care anymore either. In recent days, he had been silently following Sophia and me. He didn't dare come inside, only stood outside the door. He had a key, but he didn't dare use it. I don't know where he slept at night, or why every time I opened the door, he was already there. And I didn't care. One night I heard him coughing behind me. I stopped for a moment and turned my head. He muttered to himself, "It's been cold lately. I caught a bit of a cold." "Don't worry, I'm fine." I hugged Sophia tighter and walked farther away. "Stay back. I don't want you to infect her." Ethan stood there awkwardly. I kept walking without looking back. He continued trying to make Sophia remember him, but every time she saw him she got scared and took a long time to calm down. She had said it clearly many times she didn't know that man. She didn't feel him as her father. Even in his disappointment, Ethan didn't give up. But Sophia's somatization symptoms still hadn't disappeared completely. And so one night she had a fever again. When the ambulance arrived, Ethan had been sleeping in his car. He woke with a start, rushed out, and ran toward us. "What happened? Is she okay?" I didn't answer. I just slapped him. "Ethan, it took Sophia so much effort to get better, to finally forget you. She was happy at last. Do you want to kill her? Kill me too? Leave us alone. I beg you." Ethan lowered his head and said nothing. Fortunately, the fever wasn't serious, and Sophia woke up soon after. While I sighed in relief and stood up, I saw Ethan's silhouette outside the hospital room. He peeked in cautiously, but when he noticed Sophia's look of rejection, he retreated immediately. When I left, without even looking at him, Ethan grabbed my sleeve. "Elena, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I'm such an idiot." I didn't reply. I tried to pull my sleeve from his hand, but he kept speaking with a hoarse, broken voice. That day after seeing Alice, I had a dream. In the dream, I was still the same selfish bastard as always. You fell into a deep depression, and Sophia's illness worsened rapidly. In that dream, you never found someone like Bruno to help you. And because of me, Sophia's illness advanced without control until there was no cure left. Before she died, her only wish was to see her father one last time, to feel even a small gesture of affection. But I was busy with another child. I didn't even leave her a memory to hold on to. Sophia died, and you jumped into the void. In the end, I lost the only two people who ever truly loved me, and there was no way to get them back. Listening to him was like reopening old wounds. It hurt so much I could barely breathe. Ethan timidly tried again to reach for my hand, but I pulled back immediately, dodging him without hesitation. "Elena, I've been lucky because even though I realized too late that it was you I loved, life gave me a second chance. Please give me one more chance. Let me make it up to you and Sophia. I swear I'll never repeat the same mistakes. I'll care for you both and cherish you forever." At some point, Sophia had climbed out of bed without us noticing. She came over and took my hand in her tiny one. "Mommy, I don't like this ugly man. Don't talk to him anymore, okay?" I bent down, gently stroking her little head. "All right. Mommy doesn't like him either. We won't talk to him anymore. Let's go home, sweetheart." I didn't answer Ethan's plea directly, but I knew he understood everything. His face went pale. He sank heavily into a chair, covered his head with his hands, and let out a bitter laugh. Finally, he insulted himself under his breath. What a fucking idiot. Chapter 8. Ethan agreed to divorce. He voluntarily gave up custody of Sophia. He didn't even ask for visitation rights. Some gossips behind his back called him cold, ruthless, shameless. He let all the criticism rain down on him without offering a single explanation. When dividing the assets, he gave me the majority of his fortune. And without a second thought, I accepted everything. On the day we signed the divorce papers, I dressed up with radiant, cheerful makeup. Ethan, on the other hand, appeared disheveled, unshaven, his eyes bloodshot as if he hadn't slept in days. When he saw me so full of life, he forced a bitter smile. Are you really that happy? I was in such a good mood that I answered honestly, of course. From now on, Sophia and I no longer have to share the same household registry with you. How could I not be happy? Escaping from hell, who wouldn't be? Ethan fell silent for a moment before murmuring, I thought you'd bring Sophia with you. I shrugged. I couldn't. Every time Sophia sees you, she has nightmares. I didn't dare risk it. Ethan went quiet immediately, saying nothing more. The process was quick. Very soon I held the divorce certificate in my hands. Happier than ever, I walked out of the civil registry humming a tune. Ethan stayed standing there for a long time until finally he broke the silence. He called out to me from behind, I don't know if I'll ever see you again, Elena. I waved my hand without looking back.
No.
If we see you again, Sophia will surely have another nightmare, and so will I. Ethan lowered his head, completely defeated, and turned to leave. But then an unexpected visitor appeared. Amelia. She arrived holding Alice's hand, tears in her eyes. Ethan, she said with a trembling voice, I know you don't want to see me, but these days without you made me realize what I feel. Ethan, I still love you. Now that we're both single, could we start over? Looking at Amelia, it was as if Ethan finally saw clearly everything he had been blind to before. For the first time, he truly hated the person standing before him. Everything was her fault. Because of her, he had lost his wife and his daughter. He had lost everything, and it was all thanks to her. Seeing the increasingly deranged look in Ethan's eyes, Amelia shrank back in fear. Ethan, I see you don't want anything to do with me. Then Amelia tried to leave in a hurry, but Ethan grabbed her by the neck from behind. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands gripped brutally. It's all your fault. All your fault. You took away everything I loved. Terrified, Alice ran off crying. Amelia, unable to breathe, bit his hand in a desperate act. Howling in pain, Ethan shoved her hard. That push slammed her against a marble column. A sharp crack filled the air. Amelia fell to the ground and blood began to spread around her. Ethan froze. Amelia was dead. Declared dead on the spot. There wasn't even an attempt at resuscitation. They said her skull had been completely fractured. Alice's biological father refused to acknowledge her, refused to take responsibility. Alice was sent to an orphanage. As for Ethan, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for involuntary manslaughter. In prison he refused to work, and every day he begged to see me. I never replied. They say soon after he was admitted his mental state deteriorated. He became just another madman, always the target of assaults. At that time I had just taken Sophia for her final medical checkup. The doctor smiled and told me Sophia was completely healthy. I cried with joy. When I returned home, I found a letter in the mailbox. I pulled it out. Elena, 2 years have passed. Every day I dream of you, seeing you jump from that building. I can't imagine the pain you felt or the despair. 2 years, and my heart still feels like it's breaking. Now fate punishes me. Elena, please let me see you one last time. I beg you to. I read the letter without showing any emotion. Then, without hesitation, I fed it into the shredder. Mom, what are you doing? Sophia asked. Nothing, sweetheart, I answered with a smile. Just throwing out the trash. The next day, reading the news, I saw the headline. Ethan had committed suicide. He had smashed a glass, taken a shard, and slit his wrists so deeply he nearly severed his hand. He did it to make sure he wouldn't be saved. When I finished reading, I let out a long sigh. Dead?
Perfect.
As long as he lived, he was nothing but a burden to me. Dead, he finally gave me peace. Sophia leapt into my arms, begging me to take her out to play. I took her little hand, and we went out. It was the beginning of spring. The sky was radiant. Birds were singing. Flowers were beginning to bloom. A beautiful day.